what are your emotions like knowing that the day has come for this quarterback competition heard around the world, the fact that it's began? What are your thoughts? What are your emotions?
Yeah, is intrigued an emotion? It probably is not, but I'll go with it anyway because Kevin O'Connell has been insistent that the Minnesota Vikings have a quarterback competition. No matter how many of us have maybe been snarky on our podcast at times about the realities of Kyler Murray and JJ McCarthy's past and the potential opportunities for McCarthy to win the quarterback competition. But on the first day, we saw essentially a 50-50 split. And I will give Kevin O'Connell a lot of credit because he came out and said to us, I'm going to be very transparent. I'm going to tell you guys what's going on. And when it's time to make an announcement, I'll make an announcement. And he sat down with all of his quarterbacks and talked over exactly how they were going to split the reps. He spent all this time with Brian Flores mapping out exactly what he wants the quarterbacks to accomplish. So as long as the head coach of the football team is treating it like it is a true quarterback competition, then so am I, and you have my attention. And today I tracked every single pass, just like everyone else. I wrote them down in my little notes app and who they threw it to and where they threw it and everything else. And, you know, listening to both quarterbacks, I really thought JJ McCarthy today sounded more at ease than he did during the spring, where he was like a little on the defensive and maybe came across as a bit frustrated. And today he seemed excited and talked about feeling like there was a clearer picture. So I thought, all right, well, let's go then. Kyler Murray and JJ McCarthy. I'll be paying as much of attention as long as this goes. I don't know how long it will go, but I am certainly intrigued.
Garret, take us inside your mind as you have put in perspective what this was going to be. And then with today's arrival, like how you've thought about everything broadly.
Yeah, so the way that I would describe it is whenever you're about to go down a roller coaster, you kind of have that tug in your gut, like, here we go. This is what we've been waiting for, and we're going up the first part of the roller coaster, and the anticipation is finally here. And to go off of what Collier said about JJ McCarthy at the press conference, I thought that was the most poised and CEO franchise quarterback-esque we've seen JJ in his Vikings career. And I was really, really eager to see that. And I got this sense from JJ in the presser today that he was kind of calm. He was at ease, and he's ready to, kill or be killed, if you will, in terms of the quarterback competition. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. And there's also an aspect of, from my personal standpoint, of Kyler is and has the potential to be a good player, but there's also an aspect of, guys, the Cardinals cut Kyler Murray. We're talking about the Arizona Cardinals, one of the teams that are going to be widely projected to pick with the first overall pick in the 2027 draft. And I know there's a lot of context within the release of Kyler Murray, but I think that some people don't think it's going to be much of a quarterback competition, but everybody knows, I mean, in the Twin Cities, that this is going to be going down to the very end. And I can't wait to see how it plays out.
I'm glad both of you guys talked about the press conference today with JJ McCarthy because, I think sometimes, and I'm just speaking for myself here, like when you cover these teams, you cover these guys, and these guys come to the press conference and you talk to them, like you can make a little bit too much of it. Probably sometimes you probably cannot make enough of it at other times. But I'm in agreement with both of you guys. He stepped up to the podium. He's, hey, guys, which reminded me a lot of the 2025 training camp in terms of the hype and the buildup for that season. He said excited. I think he said best day of the year, which was like the prototypical JJ McCarthy energy that I think most Vikings fans who are probably watching the Vikings Collective, why they like JJ McCarthy so much from the outset. I think that was probably a part of it. And then I thought throughout his answers, he kept to the script of head down, focus, taking completions, being process oriented. And so I did that. Like, I thought that was a really good way to start. And so I'm glad, Collier, I'm glad that it seemed to resonate with you and Garret that same way.
Yeah, and I think that with JJ McCarthy, he's had some months to process this entire thing and sort of understand what he needs to do in order to really have a chance to become the starting quarterback, which, look, I wouldn't put the odds very high. Well, Kyler Murray was let go by the Arizona Cardinals. I think, Garrett, you may have touched on the point of releasing Kyler Murray, which would be to draft number 1, which is where Arizona really wants to be next year. When they did not have him starting in the last 3 years, they were 2-19. So that's a pretty good plan for them. And I respect moving on from a quarterback who could win you 6 or 7 games to make sure that you're drafting high. But, Kyler Murray's career, if we're going off of the priors for both guys, is much better than what JJ McCarthy did last year. Even his worst seasons are quite a bit better than what McCarthy did. But we know this, Alec, that when you're that age, you can mature pretty quickly. And I was even thinking when I was listening to JJ McCarthy about the maturation of someone like Dallas Turner, where he got to the NFL, didn't really know what to do at first. And you saw that from him. And then as he started to really get it, we saw him take step after step to the point where they trust him as an outside linebacker. I know it's way different. It's way more complicated for a quarterback, but I also think that this experience of dealing with the gut punch that is your team going out and getting somebody else, the embarrassment of having everybody talk about how, you're go to the bench, kid, whatever, to then maybe center yourself and say, all right, this is kind of make or break for me. And at least as long as this is going on, we do have to keep in mind that it was just 2 years ago that Kevin O'Connell was calling him the franchise quarterback. So you don't want to entirely dismiss that. And I thought he made it easier to kind of look at what he's going to do here with legitimacy when he, as Garrett said, was acting today like a starting professional quarterback.
And I do think, the interesting thing with all of this is, the Kevin O'Connell's process to place and design this quarterback competition in the first place was in many ways to spur the type of growth that we're talking about. And so I do think like this leads me to the question for both of you guys. And we're talking about it a little bit, but it's like, what do you want to see from both guys? And maybe Garrett, like with JJ McCarthy, what you saw today from an off the field standpoint is where you start. But I'm more curious on the field. Like when you think about both these guys throughout this training camp, regardless of what the decision ends up ultimately being, just strictly on the field, what you would love to see out of both of them, what is the answer to that in your mind, Garrett?
Yeah, so for me, the biggest thing that I want to see on the field from JJ is just consistency and just, consistently hitting the target, because there were games last year where I was holding my breath. I think of the Ravens game in particular, where I'm holding my breath every time he goes back to throw the ball. And